Yetta, I just love commercial real estate.
That is good for me and for our clients.
Moving forward with the Dekker team. Moving forward together with the Dekker team.
We are delighted that we've been able to not only come alongside you to sell, buy, and invest for over 35 years and over 3,117 times, but really come alongside you to build your faith, build your fun, build your fitness, and your finances in particular. Discovery. There are benefits and there are things to think about when you're potentially going to own instead of lease or use the space that you have. So instead of using the space you have, we're talking about what the benefits and thought processes ought to be when you are going to own your own business location.
Right. And first of all, I think it's important that you know that most businesses don't start up buying real estate because the business needs its capital for people. It needs capital for the rent. It needs capital for marketing. It needs capital for so many different things, building the product or the service and hiring and finding people and all that good stuff. That if you tie up all your capital in a building, then you may be undercapitalized for your...
Right. Unless what we said in the previous segment is that you use the space that you have, or you get space for next to nothing, or you're already living in the home where you can use the shed or the garage or your parents' shed or your parents' garage. That's a little different. But when you're going out to solely buy a commercially zoned place for your business, you don't probably want to do that on the startup unless you've had 10 businesses and you got more money than you know what to do with.
Yep.
There are exceptions.
And it's going to be hard to get financing on a building unless your business has lots of history of profitability.
Exactly.
So the first thing I would say is buy in a location that you have room for expansion, whether it's got excess land that you could add on, or maybe it's multi-tenanted. So you buy a property that's got, 6 tenants and you're going to be one of the tenants in your business. Because then as you need extra space, when their lease is up, it's not like residential where they have an absolute right to stay there. In commercial, you can say, no, your lease is up. I want the space back. And you can take it for your own business use. So it's kind of nice to have that multi-pronged. And then you got the income of those signed leases that makes it easier to buy the property to start with.
Absolutely. And then number 2, and we're going to go for 4 again. This whole show, segment A, B, and C, are all about 4 things, plus, of course, the bonus that I gave you in segment B. And that is think about future value of the land and or the building.
Yeah, when we look at a couple different businesses, like we're in Ottawa. I don't know if anybody that's listening remembers going to the Dairy Queen, the corner of Merivale Road where Clyde and Merivale spins off, and there's a Dairy Queen there that hasn't been open for a couple of years.
And I was always so frustrated that the lineup was so long, their location was so small, you couldn't even go in there to sit down because it was only a stand-up outside. And I can remember saying to you back in the 80s and 90s, why don't they expand? We now know our answer.
Well, because their business created enough business in a small space, small amount of staff, steady sales, right? Profitability out the wazoo.
Lots of profitability.
And they closed all winter and now they've sold it. They didn't sell the business because most of the time you want to create a business that's saleable. They just closed the business because they're selling the land. The land is development land, very worthwhile land. McDonald's does the same thing. People think they sell hamburgers, but they buy the locations where their McDonald's restaurants are. That's why there's few of them in malls and places like that where you have to rent. There's not that many of them because they like to buy a chunk of land.
And future pace it. Think about the future down the road. If you're thinking about the future and you're thinking, I'd like to own a business, or I'd like my business to scale or do better, or I'd like to have just a little less stress, or I'd like to have a community to grow my business in, what ought they to do, Ken?
Well, they should join us at the Ultimate Sales Machine Boot Camp with Amanda Holmes that's coming to Ottawa on June the 5th. And you can get tickets at dekkerteam.com. What's number 3, Yetta?
Well, nobody can ask you to leave if you own the building. That's a pretty... but
It's
just
true.
like you said in the last point, that if you're the first point, I think that if you're leasing, you can be asked to leave at the end of your lease.
Right.
Whereas when you own it, you have control again. I mean, one of the reasons entrepreneurs get into business is to have control, generally speaking, of their schedule and of their money and of their space, like of their life. You
also get to control the maintenance of the building, how well you maintain it, whether you delay maintenance. When you're in a lease, the landlord maintains it and charges you for the maintenance. It's part of your upcharge on your lease. So you don't have any control that way. You can't wait. Maybe you need to wait a year because your income's not quite as high. So I'm going to delay that maintenance a little bit. Or maybe you want your place to look pristine and you want to update it before the landlord would have been willing to update it. So you're in control of that. And the other thing, let me just talk about this for a second. In our personal experience, right? Opening Solid Rock, we were in a leased location for the first 12, 13 years, something like that. And then we bought a building. Now, the company has gone through ups and downs like most companies do, and it makes some money some years and doesn't other years. And yet, because we bought the building that it leases back from the corporation that owns the building, our building has well over $1 million in equity in it. So even if we shut the business down tomorrow because it failed, the building made us $1 million.
Okay, let's be clear. He's not saying that's going to happen tomorrow, or that we're even thinking about that right now. And yet, what we're saying is, by future thinking about the building, it's been going up in value without us really doing anything extra. Yeah. And other tenants, in fact, renting some of the space over all the years.
And then, fourthly, because you want 4.
I did.
Is when you're dealing commercial, you need a specialist. You need a commercial leasing specialist or a commercial purchasing specialist. Do not go to your realtor. I shouldn't say this really, but I'm going to say it anyways. Unless your residential realtor has specific commercial experience, you're better off to go find a realtor with commercial experience.
Well, that's why at the beginning I said, right? Yeah. That it was good for me that you love commercial, because I don't love doing commercial real estate. You love the spreadsheets and the numbers, and it's all about that. And the detail and the contracts and the little tiny fine print that could get you in trouble. Ken loves all that.
And how did I learn it?
Well, you learned it also, but here's the fun thing. Experience. But when you purchase the building that we're in now, which was only a decade ago or just shy of a decade, you did not represent yourself. You hired somebody to do that. Yeah. And since then, you've gotten the courses and the education, and now you do it for other people. And the experience
by going through the purchase of commercial real estate. When we leased our first place, I got a leasing agent.
Right.
It's important, even though I was a realtor. So if you're considering buying or leasing commercial, give me a call at 613-867-6058. And we're glad that you joined us on Life's Inside Track, because when we move forward together, we've got this.
Moving forward with the Dekker team. Moving forward.